What's up, World Wide Web? E-Daddy, your angry Motu toy guy, back again for another round of Motu info. Now, last week were the origins of He-Man, and it was, we covered everything from Ular to Vicor to got a good bit of the way through with Prince Adam. But it went down the way it went down. So this week we're going to continue on quest of backstories for Prince Adam and start to delve a little bit into the most powerful man in the universe, He-Man. And we'll go through some of the figures and everything, and even go through and show. We'll unbox something. Since I know how far we're going to get with it, we're going to take him out of the box tonight. That's right. We're going to take a good look at Super 7's attempt at a 5.5 Masters figure. Take a look at old He-Man himself and see how it compared to the original classic from 1981. I'm just going to leave him hanging around for right now. Let's see. Let's see if I can get some. Trying to wait for everybody to get here. See what this does. Aha. I can share this while we're going. Yeah, guys, I gotta look at my ugly mug doing all this in the process. Wish it would let me show multiple ones. Bet you Joe Amato and Tyler don't have this many issues. I swear. Oh. This is not what I meant by worthwhile tonight. I apologize for any inconveniences here tonight. This is what's making me think about recording them. As much as I'd love doing the lives and watching the comments roll, it is becoming a hassle. Well, maybe everybody this time will get the right link. Where? All right. One thing I figured is maybe I get into maybe YouTube threw a fit about me using the whole Kurt Angle music to open this up. I don't know. Anyways, like I said, last week we covered Ular, Vicor, started on the story Prince Adam. Now, there was an interesting question posed up last week about, does anybody know Eternia or Etheria, or even Primus for that matter? Does anybody got a last name? Well, go figure. Some ding dong dumb would go through and look it up. And, well, here, make sure I got the number right here. Yeah, believe it or not, there's overall 54 people that I could find. So I'm gonna say everybody, on Eternia and Etheria and Primus, they've got last names. Whether some of them's pronounceable or not, who knows? Now, one of viewers last week did ask, on whether or not the royal family had last name, and upon doing a lot of research, come find out, yes, they do. And it was actually with me researching all this, and with King Randor, come find out his last name is Miro. They never said what his father's name was, but he at one point even gets known as King Miro. So I'm going to say that his last name was Miro. That means Adam and Adora last name was also Miro. Unless, like I said, we go with, what if on Eternia they take the woman's last name? If that's the case, then I guess they're all Glenn's. Either way, they got a last name. It was really surprising on some of the ones that actually had last names. There's the ones that we do know about, and there's ones that we didn't know about. I mean, we all know, King Grayskull, he had a last name, or he had a first name. His name wasn't Grayskull. His name was actually Devon. Trying to think. Some of the funnier ones I saw on this list was a Double Trouble, also known as Rebecca Kittle. Of course, we all know the faceless one. Of course, he was King Nicholas Powers, Evelyn's dad. Seahawk's name is actually Geoff Blith. Triclops, this was the best one. Dr. T.E. Scope. Dr. T.E. Scope at that. Dr. Tridor Esunix. So, yeah. A lot of research, taking a look, see who all had names and stuff. Only one I didn't include on here was actually Marlena. I don't think I did. Adam and Adora. So, yeah, it's kind of amazing. But anyways, I just want you to know that was a big, giant pain in my ass to find all that. So, anyways, there you go. All right, so last week we made it all the way through the 86 Marvel Star comics, so we're going to continue on this story of Prince Adam. And I tell you what, there was some interesting things found in this. I think I got a cat trying to get in the door. So the 86 UK Motu comic mags kind of gave us a different look at Adam. Basically, like, Adam acquired the power when he was taken to the castle by Duncan and the sorceress. And the elders of Eternia showed him of Skeletor's impending invasion. From there, he was transported to the Timeless Dimension, where he gained the knowledge and the wisdom in order to wield the power. Once he returned, he did have the ability to go through and transform into He-Man. In a way, to me, on that one, it almost seems like when you look ahead at the 2000X NYP series, they took a little bit off of that right there from the UK comics as far as the whole backstory goes of how Adam gained the power. So anyway, it was kind of cool to see that right there. In the 86 German IHAPA Motu comics, and I know Joe Amato is going to so hate me for keep saying that. Adam, he was able to hold his own, but he did choose to, pretend to be lazy and all that. Just keep Teela from suspecting, that him and He-Man was the same person. He did eventually reveal his secret Skeletor when they were on the Starship Eternia, and he never transformed back. So that might have something to do with where New Adventures would get their whole thing. Plus that, and I think that was kind of falling in line with the newspaper strips on that, except Adam did eventually reveal to his parents that he was He-Man, or He-Man revealed that he was actually Prince Adam at I think it was like the last comic strip of the those comic or newspaper strips. All right, so the 87 Italian Magic Boy magazines, it kind of displayed Adam being a little frustrated with having to hide his secrets. And it all came to a head when King Randor pretty much told him, no, you can't be part of the competition of courage. In fact, he came so fed up that he went through and he transformed himself into He-Man in front of people. However, that transformation got inadvertently averted because of Evil Lyn, who went through and cast some kind of spell and kind of backtracked a little bit, and it caused Adam to go through and lose his memory for a bit. But then, and this is something that in a way it ties in with New Adventures, I think, a little bit, even though I know it wasn't in the New Adventures cartoon. It was not Darius, but apparently when Darius and Icarus showed up, looking for He-Man, Adam transformed, and what seemed to be the last time, because the sorcerers informed him, hey, past and the future, they combined, so Adam was no more. That's how that one went. Now, we'll go from there. And it's like 3 years before we got anything new Motu-wise, until all of a sudden here comes New Adventures. Now, I personally have my reservations and issues about New Adventures. Um, it's got a great storyline. Don't get me wrong. The only problem I have is the animation style. To me, it reminds me of the old religious Bible cartoons they used to show on PBS back in the late 80s, early 90s. And the voice work kind of sucked a little bit. Plus that, and Skeletor. That man never had the same eyes in consecutive episodes. He either had regular eyeballs coming out of his skull, just the black holes for eyes, red or yellow glowing orbs in his eye. It was never the same from episode to episode. You never got 2 or 3 consecutive episodes where he had the same look. But pretty much with the way that I looked at it, and especially after doing some research and everything, and considering the fact that I've read all the newspaper strips, it pretty much picked up right where the strips left off. Because he went through and he had revealed himself to King Randor and Queen Marlena. And, yeah, he did. He still went through and he preserved his secret on Primus, saying that he was the nephew to Master Sebring, whatever. And he showed himself as being a trader, and he went trader of, goods, and even enlisted the Galactic Guardians training program. And of course, also through the series, showed him having kind of a little romantic sharing interest with Mara of Primus, who, suspected Adam and He-Man being one and the same. It was also in that series where, and I think for the only time that I can remember out of any of the cartoons or even any of the comics that we've gotten over the years, where instead of saying by the power of Grayskull, which they show him only doing it once and it was in front of his parents, but it started for that series is by the power of Eternia. That right there, when we all look at it, it was a bad deal right there, because in all honesty, let's face it, the power didn't lie in Eternia. It lied within Castle Grayskull because of King Grayskull. And it was something that had been alluded to in multiple comics over the years prior. So why they went to that, I don't know. That, and somebody's going to have to explain the stupid fucking helmet that they put on the He-Man figure, along with giving Prince Adam the hippie hair and the 2, might as well say, ponytails coming down his side. I never could get that. Not one bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great. We got to see that, it was great in a way. The storyline did continue for He-Man. Like I said, the storyline, it was great and all that, but it was just really hard to see that. And I had a feeling. So, after New Adventures, we wouldn't get anything at all involving He-Man until 2002, when Mike Young Productions come out with He-Man and Master Universe, a series not only with figures, but we all consider to be, 2000X. And honestly, it was great. With Filmation, the Filmation cartoon, we never, we just automatically got thrown into Um, we just got thrown into Prince Adam's He-Man. That was it. And even with any of the comics or magazine stuff like that, we got the same thing. And it was, so I mean, we never knew, we just knew that, okay, the sorcerers gave him the sword of power. That's all we got. We didn't know when, we didn't know how, we didn't know the reasoning for it. So need to say, with the MYP series, we got a lot of questions answered in it, as far as the whole Adam turning the He-Man thing. And going back to previous canon, they went through and showed where Adam was a 16-year-old kid who, on his 16th birthday, he was taken to Castle Grayskull by Man-at-Arms, and was told by the sorcerers of his destiny, to become He-Man. Now, Adam, he was a little leery about it at first. He's like, yeah, well, whatever, we're not in any kind of danger. My dad went through and he trapped Skeletor and the Mystic Warriors, or Keldor and the Mystic Warrior, or Evil Warriors, behind the Mystic Wall years ago. There's no threat. There's no issues. Well, here's Skeletor, who's had a long time of brooding and getting upset. Him and the Evil Warriors find a way, they break the Mystic Wall, reinvade Eternia, capture Randor. Adam runs back to Castle Grayskull, gets the sword, transforms, and transforms himself into He-Man. And rest of us know, there you go. There's they still managed to show Adam as a lazy, fun-loving Adam, even though they did show him more training with Teela and Man-at-Arms in the series compared to what we got with really anything prior, including Filmation. So, I mean, right there, that was a great little bit right there. And it made a lot of us happy, even though the series was rather short-lived. I'm thinking it was 39 episodes. Somewhere in there, like 39 total episodes, and that was it. Now I remember, I always found it on a Cartoon Network, and so that was the way it was. All right, so anyways, for 6 years we wouldn't really get anything until Mattel decided they were going to re-release the figures, in a new style, get the classic style figures. And so with that, they provided us with some canon to go on the back of a lot of the cards and everything. A lot of the card backs. Now, with the classics canon, it's like Adam and Adora were both, children born of two worlds. And they were prophesied as being the twins of power. Adam was given half the power sword and a techno vest, and basically set out on a quest to find the other half of the power sword so he could go through and transform himself into He-Man. And apparently, after many years, it became common knowledge that Adam and He-Man was the same person. After Skeletor went through and he seized the throne and drove the Masters underground. And since everybody knew, he went ahead and transformed himself into He-Man and remained so, especially once he set off after Skeletor to Primus. I mean, we got some, with Adam so far, it seems like, Some of them wanted to say, Adam eventually, said, "I've had enough. I'm revealing myself. This is enough. My family, my friends and family is constantly in danger. Boneheads figured it out. Shit, let's just do this." So now we're going to finish the Prince Adam story with the 2012 DC Comics. Now, everybody that I know in various groups has went through and they've seen the Eternian Wars comic books they did, and the basically the prequel to the Eternian Wars. But prior to that, there was a set of comics that come out, and I am looking to make sure that I'm going to get this right. Okay, I'm not as far as how it all goes. Let's get these crap things out of the way first. So originally DC went through and they released a 6-issue line. And yeah, I know I'm only showing 3, but I've got the other 3 on the back sides of them, so it's all good. It was a 6-issue series going through to show what was going on, what had happened in the meantime. Starts out basically as like, something has happened to the Masters. To where they've been defeated by Skeletor. He has went through and he has completely wiped their memories of them ever being Masters Universe. Not even showing, or even showing that he's completely wiped Adam's mind, where he has no recollection of ever being He-Man. But so they show him start with as being a woodsman who lives with his father out in the woods, and he starts having dreams of where he has been he's been He-Man, and he's battling Skeletor and the evil warriors. Zor finds him, and he starts to think, hey, there's something going on here. These dreams just too often. So he sets out, he leaves his father with some other woman that lives there in the woods. And he sets out to basically try to find himself. Because he's thinking there's something with these dreams. There's something just too real here. And along the way, he goes through and, he has to deal with certain evil warriors. Beastman, as he's trying to leave out of the woods, comes across Trapjaw, Merman, Evil Lyn. Finds Teela along the way. Finds Duncan being mind controlled by, or being used by Evil Lyn as one of her servants. Does eventually find Battle Cat Cringer and the Sword of Power. Manages to get all the sword, and once he touches it, he knows the phrase, so he goes through and throws sword up, says about the power of Grayskull. Transforms himself back into He-Man, regains all of his memories about what happened, and that's where we start finding out it's like Skeletor had a way to go through and win to win. And of course, not only him, but the spell got broken. All the Masters started coming back together. So he goes through and they manage to go through and defeat Skeletor once and for all. And after that, he goes through and comes find out, the Horde start invading. And, of course, also along the way, starts finding a lot of things, but he goes through and figures he can do more good as being Adam, so he breaks the sword of power. Well, because of all that, yeah, he got the trust of the Snake Men, but that's only because King Hiss went through at some point and managed to consume him. However, Adam's spirit was still there and was fighting with him even after he went through and got the Snake Men together to help him out on defeating the Horde. He literally ripped himself out of the King Hiss body, which is funny because seeing Prince Adam dressed up like Hiss should have kind of gave us a clue on that. But, and he went through and he managed to slow time down again. And the reason why I say again, I'm going to get to that here shortly. In order to go to the forge himself a new power sword, and transform again. And luckily, after they defeated the Horde and all that, and reunify Eternia, he'd go through and he'd split time between being Adam and He-Man for the good of Eternia, to make balanced decisions, because also along the way he comes find out his father was actually dead, had been consumed by Hiss long ago, and so he took over the reign of being the king. So luckily, the only reason he managed to he went through and broke the sword in the first place because he'd seen a vision of him being He-Man full time and pretty much been corrupted, and was just about basically a tyrant. But it's also during the whole process of this of the whole series, the whole setup before, he'd find his sister, who was just Despair again. He found out, his father was actually dead and been dead a long time. Was actually King Hiss, and wearing his father's skin basically. Also along the way, they went through and transported themselves. Him and some of the Masters transported themselves to Earth, where they find Skeletor, who went to Earth, became like Master of Death and all this. And that's where we come find out that it was Orko all along that had went through and was basically running the whole show. He was the one that caused Skeletor to win and become ruler and help with getting Adam and all the Masters' minds completely wiped. Also come find out that's where his mom's hanging out, is on Earth, and that's where she decides to stay. So it was a really good set. I advise anybody that ever gets a chance to, pick them up. These were made back starting in September of 2012. Like I said, a six issue series that predid the other series that came out later and the Eternia Wars. But there was also afterwards there was, and it was before they started releasing all the other ones. They had three one-shot issues. One was like the origin of He-Man, origin of Skeletor, and of course the origin of Hordak. In there, they show where Adam was a child, and he inadvertently went through and tapped into the power in order to go through and slow down time for the first time to save his father. So it's a really good read. It really was. Really wish beforehand it was on my itinerary of things to go through and read again this week. But with work and everything, it just wasn't happening. Hopefully I get a chance to do it a little bit while doing my doing all my notes and everything for next week's show. But anyways, so that was our trip for Prince Adam. Now, with the whole thing, I don't have I don't have a 2000X Prince Adam. I know last week I went through and I showed everybody, yeah, with the vintage 83 Mattel figures, the Prince Adam, basically it's almost like a He-Man repaint, so I can say he's Prince Adam. Gave him a red vest, gave him purple tights and all that, and a pink power sword. A lot of us made him, useful when we need him. I don't know about everybody else, but I always used Adam to be flying around the Wind Raider. Something I still do today with the classics figures, and even my vintage one. Most time those two, the vintage and the classics Prince Adam, usually stay in the Wind Raider seat. So now the 2000X Prince Adam, they show a short little gangly kid, still had the red vest and brown pants this time. Thank goodness. Like I've talked about before with the 2000X series, they're rather statuesque in how they are and everything. So going further, we get to without doubt the classics Prince Adam, and I think I may have covered this even last week when I was talking about it. Originally Mattel gave us, the red vested, purple tighted Prince Adam with the this one is more like a dark pink, almost kind of purplish colored power sword. Gave him the silver bracelets instead, bracers instead. Unlike with the original Prince Adam with the vintage, they just painted it over white with make him look like he's wearing a white shirt underneath that pink or the red vest. I'm sorry. But it's really cool, get him like that. I'm pretty sure, I think with Adam, we got him with Orko, shows him napping. But they did a pretty good job with him as far as the points of articulation. The only problem I really have with it, and this is almost the same thing with like the He-Man figure I've ever got, weak ass ankle joints. Now, that being said, and I know there's probably somebody's been waiting to hear me say this. It involves Super 7. Earlier this year, they went through and they released a laughing Prince Adam. And it was something that came from a meme that got released, shows him laughing and the big rainbowy starburst behind him and all that. So they went through and they released that figure. And I have yet to get one, and in all honesty, other than the fact it just looks goofy as hell, I haven't seen too many issues with it. Like I've said before, maybe one of those figures that somewhere down the line I might get it, and I'll come on here and I'll do like a short one-shot review of it. So anyway, so that right there, that covers Prince Adam. We're done with Adam. So now we get to move on to what we've been looking forward to since I started this special last week. Talking about the big man himself. We're talking about He-Man. And, originally their thoughts was to make him look like Vicor. Of course, or the Vicor figure we got with the classics. However, it's like kind of made him look too much like Conan the Barbarian. And then with the mini comics, they start, before they released a Prince Adam figure, they're going, Savage Warrior had left his tribe. We talked about that with Ular last week. That's basically how a lot of the original mini comics went. Now, in the second wave of mini comics, He-Man started to talk more sophisticated. Because, his world had evolved and expanded. He lived in a more feudal society, and his heroic feats were done in service of a more elder king and queen. So, from there, that's pretty much where I think, with DC Comics come out in 82, they started depicting, Adam being the one that was He-Man. And they kind of showed him as being a more impatient, headstrong warrior. But he's also shown as being like a loyal servant to the sorceress and lays life down on line for her and King Randor, Queen Marlena. And his strength was so impressive. He could literally go toe-to-toe with Superman, which was showed in one of the DC Comics. Now, from there, we know what we got. So here comes Filmation along. And we all know the story, But, with everything, they went with a different route than what any of the mini comics shown. Yeah, while he had all this great strength, he preferred, peaceful solutions over battle. Wanted to use his mind over his muscle. Which, from a standpoint, with a lot of us being kids, it's kind of a good moral story, with it all. And one point, he even showed a willingness in the Filmation cartoons to go through and renounce his power when he thought he killed somebody. So, that was pretty good right there. At one point, he even fought off the temptation to rule and destroy. He turned in and destroyed Skeletor when he had the power in his grasp with Starseed. Showed him as having a pretty good sense of humor about everything. Unlimited strength, to be honest. Man could go through and lift mountains, castles. It didn't matter. He pretty much had that telepathic link to go through and be able to communicate back and forth with the sorcerers. All right, so since we've covered up to Filmation for today on He-Man, which means next week we're going to go through and we're going to cover the rest of He-Man. But for now, we're going to look at some more of these we've gotten over the years. Now, let's see. All right, so we talked about Prince Adam. We'll go into how it come out. So originally, here we got He-Man, and I got pretty lucky to still had gotten a hold of this one, still have this one, and I've still got them in really good shape. I actually got this one a few years ago. A dude had went through and for some reason had unboxed him, and I don't know what happened to the card. I used to have it. It's went missing, and it really kind of upsets me. But this one was actually 1981. He is literally pristine. And my local comic book shop went through, and I showed up there, and he's like, "Man, we got something to show you." So they show me this, and it literally still had that new figure smell. Any of us that's collected any kind of figures over years, they always had that smell to them, you know. So I mean, he was pretty in pristine condition. I've got some that, you know, with the whole legs and everything, that's gotten worse over years. But you know, and they did kind of like a little, you know, they went through and they showed him having the sword, gave him the sword and the axe and the shield, which, you know, basically, I mean, we had the one half the power sword because that's the way the original story is going. Hey, he's after the other half of the power sword, which we all know the other half came with Skeletor. So, I mean, he, you know, I mean, these are like the figures that we all was constantly playing with. In fact, if somebody had this deal in a box and everything, that was pretty awesome. And I know Mattel went through, you know, years later, and they released a commemorative edition, and I did go through and I had this thing checked out to make sure it wasn't a commemorative edition one, because otherwise I'd been really pissed about it. So, you know, so we had that. And, you know, we had some variants to He-Man over time with Mattel's original line. They went through and later, you know, they gave us I can't find my normal Battle Armor He-Man, but I've got this one that I was working on at one point for a custom idea. You know, they gave him this little retractable chest there where you go through and tap it and it would bounce to where you have one dent in it or two dents, or have it, you know, keep it to where it was just normal. And this one will only stay the way it is. And at the time, you know, it's pretty cool, you know, get something like that, even though he only came with an axe. And here's another one that I can't find my original or my good Thunder Punch. So I've got one that I was going to do a camo style, and I'm still kind of working on it a little bit. Thunder Punch He-Man. And he still had the ability to go through. This one don't anymore. You know, he still had the Thunder Punch action, turn and all that. Had a little thing like where you go through and pop it out. Put those little ring caps in there. Snap it down, lock it in place. When you snapped them around, you heard that kapow out of it. It's pretty cool, really. Now that one, it seems like any Thunder Punch He-Mans I have found in the last 5 years, you can't hardly find one that's got legs worth a damn. But I mean, it's not that bad of a flaw, really. So we move on with more of the, you know, since, like I said, we've covered up the Filmation and a lot of the vintage stuff. Oh, let's see. So Mattel, you know, they went through and they, you know, was released figures. Then they released a Club Grayskull line that they went through and they made a vintage, you know, which was based off the vintage line. So we get He-Man here, and this is actually, you know, of course, you know, the Ultimates Filmation figures, or Ultimates Club Grayskull, whatever Super 7's calling this. They ain't released yet. But anyways, so you got basically, you had He-Man that had the little anvil there from to put the power sword in, which you never could put it in anyways. But he came with his Filmation style power sword. And in all honesty, I mean, they did a pretty good job with the sculpt and everything, with how it looked. The only thing I had an issue with was the way they did his feet, where they could turn from side to side. This one manages to stand pretty good. Like I said, the sculpt on it was actually pretty good. Seemed like they just went through and they reused, you know, He-Man with just a little bit darker skin tone. Redid his bracers to make him, look like he did in the Filmation cartoon. Everything more smooth looking and everything. And Nisei gave him that. They went through and made a new head for him to look like the his Filmation cartoon counterpart. Overall, I mean, pretty nice to get a hold of. Without a doubt. The box that they did for, the whole Castle Grayskull look, really awesome looking. Definitely one that is worth getting a hold of if you can. All right, so we go from there to Super 7. Now, Super 7 went through and they released a Ultimates version of stuff, which we'll talk about that more next week as we go through and we finish out the whole He-Man thing, and we'll talk about those in. But they went through and they decided, you know what, we're going to go through and we're going to recreate the 5.5-inch figures. So start out, we got He-Man, we got Skeletor, She-Ra, and Hordak. Now, the cards, bubble, and everything makes it look like the way they did back in the day when we originally got them as when we were kids back in the 80s. Instead of getting like a mini comic in there, we get like we get a card instead. We'll take a look at that here shortly. Now on the back, they did do some great new artwork up here with the card and then showing, much like the card backs did back in the day, the action it's got with it. The figures released. Of course, they also show, the powers of Grayskull on there, but we know those have yet to be released yet. So anyway, what we're going to do today, because I was saving this for this episode, because we're going to compare this one to our original from back in the day. I'm not going to hold anything back on this like I feel like certain toy reviewers did. And we're going to see how well exactly he does line up and everything with our vintage Battle Cat, which, as we all know, back in the day, He-Man fit down there pretty good to where he could ride his faithful steed into battle. So, with that being said, let's find. I love it when things go missing beforehand, because I really want to do this without damaging the card. Well, all right, we'll just no trusty here. Oh, there it is. Shoot, yeah, forget old trusty. Old trusty needs a good sharpening anyways. So we're going to slowly go through and cut along this and to keep from damaging card. Like I said, I was really wanting to kind of open these up, but I was going you know what, I'm gonna wait until I do specials on them instead of doing a whole thing of on just the 4 figures to start with. And I do know at this point, they are releasing a wave 2. Tees. That's going to include Man-at-Arms, Teela, Beastman, and I forget who else. And from seeing those, it almost looks like the shrunk down version, shrunk down 5.5 look of the Club Grayskull that Super 7 gave us. Now, I'll admit, originally, I was rather skeptical about getting any of these, especially after Super 7 went through and they released these figures in 2-packs, and I've seen where a lot of people was having issues with them. All right, so, right off the bat with him. I don't know if the material just wasn't great enough or whatever, but I mean, while he still had that hardened plastic, like what we got with the Filmation, much like I know a lot of other people, mine is just not staying together all the way right. Yeah, we'll set that out. Now, did notice also they made sure, much like the figures did back in the day, they had the legs and everything in the plastic bag. Of course, we get his weapons. I should cut this a little bit different. So we get this card, great artwork of, from Filmation, of him transforming right there in front of the castle. On the back, we get this nice little thing that says from toy to tune, and everything. He-Man Master Universe brought action and adventure in the living rooms around the world. And the fun continued with exciting Master Universe action figures. It continued on with the figures. I'm pretty sure the figures came out before the cartoon. But they always, the figures didn't always match, the characters, we got to see on TV. So, we get this today. Like I said, I want to do it to where I can keep the card back so I can go through and put it up in here or something. I'm going to set that right there for right now. All right, so let's take a good look here at our Super 7 5.5 inch figure. All right, so right off bat, one, we've got, let's talk about right now. This is how it came out of the package, okay? The thing wasn't even looped anything in the back. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of that now. And it's just not, like they just didn't make them quite long enough in order to do that. Another thing I said, the head sculpt, it does in a way look a little bit more like the Filmation version, and they made sure kind of keep the hair looking about the same. They did give a little bit more detail than what Mattel did with their Club Grayskull Atom Sculpt head. Yeah, we get the, naturally, you know, we get the Thunder Punch action with it without a doubt. Head turn side to side, still get the whole arm action. Now, the legs, the only thing I can see here with the original, you know, you didn't have a gap between his loincloth and his legs. I dropped originals axe there. Now taking a good look at it over. Other than that, the side, not really seeing too much of a paint issue. However, I did on the back. Oh, and I see another issue. I'll show you this here in a second. I'm going to take his armor off here for a minute. So the legs, you know, we get that clicking motion, but they only get so much of a, you know, range there. You know, at least with Adam or with the original He-Man, they split out pretty well. One I did notice, like little red paint, you know, that come off, you know, off of something. It's on the back of there. And I know I've heard from Super 7, it's only supposed to be 0.5% of a quality control issue. And I'm going to let that one a little bit slide. I mean, something like that, it could happen. I've seen people get ones that look worse than this. On the back, though, on the arm right here, I don't know if you can see it very well. It got a little bit of like a hole in it in the arm. But, I mean, overall, I mean, this is the whole armor issue aside and that one little paint speck. This one actually don't look too bad compared to others I've seen. I've seen some that had really bad paint apps to them. So I'm going to consider myself pretty lucky that I did get a fairly decent one. Like I said, I have seen a lot of these come out that's got bad paint apps on the face, bad paint apps on the rest of the body altogether, overspray, stuff like that. So like I said, I'm going to consider myself to be pretty fortunate to pick this one up over at FYE. He does, much like others have shown, he will fit on the Battle Cat. Now, as far as his weapons go, and this was pretty cool because you almost got the almost like the same design, a little bit more articulated look, thinner without a doubt, but look of the Power Sword. There's the new one that Super 7 gave us compared to the one that we got originally with Mattel. Did have the wider little piece right there, you know, for his hand grip. And we got the one half of the Power Sword. Now, that right there, considering the fact this is supposed to be based off of Filmation, never do we see He-Man or Prince Adam going through and chasing down the Power Sword, the other half of the Power Sword. So the nice thing is, at least with what they're doing, they gave us a whole complete Power Sword to get it all together. Now, unless I dropped something, I don't think I did. Now, They once again tried to keep it more on the lines of Filmation, so we did not get the axe. However, we did get the shield, which in size comparison is really about the same size, but it is a little bit thicker. And much like I've seen other people show, for some reason our shield comes apart in two pieces. Not really sure why. I'll do that, it does snap back in. Now comes the real big question here is it going to snap onto his arm like it should? And to be honest with you, I don't know why it's not really wanting to go on. I'm a little worried about going through and it snapping. Up there it went, and it didn't snap anything. So shield fits and everything, much like the originals did. I said instead of the battle axe, we do get his power sword in all its glory. It does fit in there fairly well. While I do not see a reason for giving us one half the power sword with something that's supposed to be based off of a film, off the Filmation toy. Still, I guess you can say nice little touch to it. Like I said, he does fit on Battle Cat. I'll consider myself be lucky. Like I said, even though I've seen where Super 7 has dropped the ball as far as their quality control goes on a lot of these. And it's not only ones that, it seems like there's a lot of them that got ordered from the factory in pre-orders whenever people did finally get them. Like I said, I picked mine up from FYE, so I don't know, maybe Super 7 was a little bit more picky on what they sent Super 7 compared to what they sent, or what Super 7 sent to like FYE and maybe even Big Bad Toy Store. I don't know, it was mine, come out looking at it all right. I don't really care too much for the way the legs are. Surely they could have recreated the whole rubber band thing like what we had with the originals back in the day. Because at least that way you had more mobility, more posability, and this is the original vintage. And if you want to put them in a wrestling ring and kick some wrestlers' ass, you had the ability to go whop, kick them. And they made sure, with the vest, harness and all that, look at the difference there. This one, yeah, you got it where you can turn. Can't really go back and forth too much without them turning. Like I said, very little on that. So it's like, man, what in the world's going on here? It is great that they did add the Thunder Punch thing to it. Now, another thing I did notice, Filmation, and I look back in the cartoons, he looked about like this one did. You look at the belt on the loincloth and all that. So right here, it's almost like they were going, with the belt, give him the more vintage look in body style and all that. I know they were going through and they said, this line is supposed to be, 5.5 vintage style, but it's going to be made to look like the Filmation cartoon. He didn't have all that on his belt. It was plain like the original Club Grayskull one. Today's show is not being hosted or being brought to you from Dr. Pepper or Petscola or anybody else. So, in hindsight, a little bit, Super 7 somewhat dropped the ball here on this one. They could have went through, and if they were going to make it look like a film, Filmation style, basically they should have taken this and like shrunk them down into 5.5. To at least made them look right. The addition of the half the power sword, the belt, like, all right, we're going to take the molds from Mattel from back in the day and use it for this, and forget about, eliminating the vintage style belt. We're going to add that in on a something that's supposed to be based off Filmation. That, and we never saw the shield being used in the cartoon. So why they opted to go that route, I don't know. To be honest with you, I think they should have just stuck with the power sword, and that's it. Instead of, like I said, giving us the one half the power sword, and I know the other half comes with Skeletor, and giving us the shield. So I mean, you look at those kind of mess ups, you factor those in with a lot of the product that probably a lot of people have seen has been shipped to them. I'll say this, they kind of dropped the ball on it. I would have laughed whenever we got it, if it had been, basically this figure remade with a Filmation style head on him. So I'll give them. I'll say this: they tried. They dropped the ball on several pieces of it, but in all honesty, I mean, I'll give them some credit for, design how the legs are attached and everything. At least I know some people's gotten theirs with them snapped. I could see that possibly happening in time. Some kid get old and be playing with them a little bit too rough. Much like we all were guilty of back in the day. But I mean, at least the legs held up over time. It just dry rot over years and being played with. Yeah, eventually they're going to snap. Those right there look like they could snap actually pretty easy. Not a big, I mean, I don't like the fact you can't remove the arms either, or maybe you can. I just ain't really seen a way how yet, nor do I plan on trying, because be my luck, go take it off and snap. But anyways, that is my review and look on everything so far with going down the story of He-Man. And his counterpart, Prince Adam. Honestly, while through most of it, we got that fun-loving, lazy Prince Adam. Yeah, we did get the Adam that I think a lot of us probably wish we'd gotten. When it was like, hated the fact he had to keep his secret, got looked upon different, because he was always running off and stuff like that. He was never around when He-Man would arrive. I liked what some of them did, as far as showing, hey, he's going to go through and, he's going there and he's revealing himself. He's revealing the fact that, he's He-Man. It was do like that. Like I said, I really wish a lot of them, and every single comic strip up until what we got with the 2000X series never showed with the exception of the German series back in '86. Let's see. Oh, in 87. You know, it'd been great until, they could have played more on that. Or somebody could have said something, with the exception of that one, that and the comic strips. Of course, like I said, it was the very last comic strip that showed him going through and revealing himself to anybody. That Prince Adam was He-Man. He-Man was actually Prince Adam. I do love what 2000X did with making Adam a 16-year-old kid who transforms into this, big, strong guy, who's got unlimited strength, unlimited power. And, while I'm still trying to wrap my head around what their thought was originally. Like I said, I can see why they opted not to make him look like Conan, because otherwise, probably 10-1. Somebody would have said something back in the day. With the Ular character, I would have loved to see him somebody go through and do more with that right there. Show more of his adventures and stuff like that, or kept something going from where, he was still He-Man. You never see him go through and have to hide his secret from anyone. Of course, no one knew, about about Ular. They just knew He-Man. And Filmation is about as bad as this as any of the rest, making He-Man and Prince Adam almost look identical. Maybe a little bit darker hair tone. Different outfit, but otherwise, everything else was the same on him. So, anyways, that is our continuing adventures on the history and backstory and looking at the toys that we got, with He-Man and Prince Adam. So next week we're going to finish this out with all the other canon and fodder we've gotten since Filmation. I figured tonight Filmation would be a great point to stop at. And we're going to take a good look at the toys that we've gotten over the years. Like I said, with the exception of some of the variants in the 2000X line, a lot of the we'll look at some of the variants, a lot of the variants that we've gotten with He-Man in the Classics line. We'll even take a look at the New Adventures figure. But anyways, that is my review and look at everything as far as Prince Adam and He-Man goes. So next week, we will continue on with the story of He-Man, finished on style for 2018. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful Christmas. And until next week, I'm E-Daddy, your angry Motu toy guy. Y'all be safe, have fun. Peace out. I'm gone. See y'all next week.